Is HEX and PulseChain a scam? Is Richard Hart a scammer? In this video, I'm going to be as objective as humanly possible to give you both sides of the story, because look at this guy, right? This Richard Hart guy, the founder of HEX and PulseChain, there's a lot of controversy around him. And yes, he looks like a scammer. But unless you've already made up your mind, some people have, and that's fine. This video is not for you. If you're on the fence and you want to know about both sides of the story, watch very carefully. Watch all the way till the end and pay attention, because this is going to be the video to acknowledge your skepticism. Because of course, look at this guy, right? Look at this clip really quick. And this is Richard walking out of the Gucci store like a clown, right? Dressing like a clown. Now, it's funny to watch, and it enrages a lot of people. I mean, he himself called this outrage marketing back in the day. There's many videos like this, where you take one look at the guy, and you say, I get it. Look at him. He must be a scammer. He's flaunting all this expensive stuff. And you've heard of all the other scams going on in crypto. This is probably just another scam. HEX and PulseChain, guys, these are Richard Hart's creations, as well as PulseX. Okay, these three tokens, they go under a lot of scrutiny for people, and there are a lot of proven scammers. But the jury is still out for Richard Hart, almost literally, because when you take a look at the news surrounding the mainstream media about HEX and PulseChain, there's no mainstream media that's very positive. If you want to see both sides of the story, you have to go follow the HEX community on Twitter to see other perspectives, or the PulseChain community to see what people are actually doing and building on these products that exist today. And they've been out for over a year now, almost 2 years at this point. But let's be honest, guys, they haven't even pumped yet. And there's a lot of fear and uncertainty around these coins, as you could see why, right? But is the fact that they haven't pumped yet mean that it's destined for doom and failure, HEX and PulseChain, or does it mean that there's actually an opportunity here that's asymmetric? You have to decide for yourself. And it's easy to go online and see, look at this. Like the US SEC is actually going after the founder, saying that he defrauded investors and spent money on the Enigma diamond. So he bought this diamond, guys, which by the way, he puts on the homepage of HEX, right? Hex.com homepage. He names this diamond the Hex.com diamond. And you're like, okay, that seems like a scammy thing to do, but why would you be so public about it? If you were really doing this for money, it does seem like kind of a weird thing that you would just buy a diamond and then be so obvious as to put it right on the homepage of Hex.com. You know, to me, this diamond is more of like an advertisement, trying to be flashy, trying to advertise HEX to the world. I don't think Richard Hart himself gets much joy out of owning this rock. Okay, because if he did, if he was stealing everybody's money and buying this rock and putting it on the website, well, that'd be like, you know, robbing a store and then going to the police station and say, hey guys, I robbed a store. You know, and also if you do some of the timing analysis on when he bought this diamond that the SEC loves to bring up, he actually bought this diamond months before he ran what's called the sacrifice phase for HEX and PulseChain. And we're going to get into that in a minute. Basically, it was kind of like a bunch of people sacrificing all their money in order to maybe receive these PulseChain and PulseX tokens in the future. But going back to the mainstream media, look at how much of a scammer he looks like. Look at this, guys. Also, Interpol. Interpol is like Europeans' multinational police force. They put out a red notice for him, claiming that he's evading taxes, claiming that he's assaulted a 16-year-old kid. Now, the 16-year-old assault one is very funny to me, because you could see Richard Hart live streaming like 2 days after they claimed he assaulted a 16-year-old kid. Like, what's a multimillionaire doing out there in the streets assaulting a kid? And you could look at this guy's hands, Richard Hart, his knuckles and his hands in the live stream that he did 2 days after this alleged assault, and see that there's no bruising, there's no sign of a fight, even though Interpol is claiming that he like punched some kid in the face multiple times. It's all very fishy, and it probably has more to do with the tax claim. You know, Interpol probably was working with Finland to try to shake this guy down for tax money, which is reasonable. Okay, I mean, governments, when they hear a guy makes a lot of money, every government wants a cut, right? Every government wants a cut. And you've got all kinds of mainstream articles about the controversy. Like, this is a good article from CoinGeek. The HEX founder, his lawyers claim that he promised nothing to nobody. Okay, so he claims he's not a fraudulent crypto scammer, that he's a First Amendment martyr, you know, that's doing this for free speech and building open source software, which objectively he did build HEX. He did build PulseChain and PulseX. These products exist. It'd be maybe a little different if he said he was going to do it and then never launched the things. But like I said, they've been running fine for about 2 years, and HEX has been running for 5 years now. HEX is one of these products that there's no middleman behind it. There's no company behind it. So it's a very unique enigma when it comes to the rest of crypto, because a lot of these corrupt scammers, people like FTX, people like Celsius, people like Luna, right? They had these centralized companies or code with a centralized owner that was flawed, that lost everybody's money. With these HEX and PulseX type of coins, it's just code that nobody owns the keys to. Nobody controls the code. Kind of like Bitcoin. When you launch Bitcoin, it doesn't have an off switch. Ethereum doesn't have an off switch. HEX is the same way. Richard Hart could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and HEX and PulseChain and all that would still work as intended. But I totally get how he could look like a scammer at first glance. I mean, it's just, there's the more you look, the more you'll see mainstream people and big names calling him a scammer. And then you even go to the website and you see that, okay, well, there's a big diamond on here. But like I said, why logically would you put a diamond on a website if you stole all that money from investors and then just like plaster that in front of their face and say, hey, look at all the money that I stole from you. Like, something doesn't add up here. Something's fishy, which is why we're going to dig into it. But it's very easy to write this guy off, and it's very easy to lump this guy into the category of all these other scammers out there. Like I said, FTX, the giant multi-billion-dollar scam back in 2022 with Sam Bankman-Fried. It's easy to associate HEX based on fear and past experiences rather than the facts. So remember, guys, HEX itself, the code, the coin, is just a piece of code with no central owner. Yes, some people own more coins than other people, but the code has no middleman, no off switch, no admin keys. And when you get into the anger towards Richard Hart, you have to focus on the people that are the angriest online. The most hateful of the haters are another very interesting species to watch. I mean, the people that are pro-HEX, they're interesting to watch. Like, psychologically, it's an interesting phenomenon. Why do all these people believe still in these projects, even after the SEC and Interpol are going after the founder? And then you look at all the haters on Twitter, and some of the biggest haters, you'll realize actually have kind of dark histories themselves, right? This Eric Wall guy is one of the most active haters of HEX, and he spends a lot of his time hating on HEX and PulseChain. And you got to ask yourself, where does all this anger come from, right? And you dig into the stuff that this Eric Wall guy shills online, and you say, well, why was he promoting this Starknet thing so much? The Starknet, crypto token promoted by Eric Wall went down 85%, maybe more now. I have no idea. He also used to own a crypto hedge fund called Arcane Capital, which, if you look at this chart, it's not even trading on the markets anymore. It stopped trading last year in 2023, and the chart is down 96% from all-time highs. So you see a lot of these people throwing stones in glass houses, and you realize that maybe some of the anger is misdirected or deflected from these people in crypto that potentially, like, they want to do their own mini psyop, kind of like, look over there, don't look at my failures. Look at this guy over there. And another one that we have to highlight is this Simon Dixon guy who never misses a beat on trying to cover all the news with the assumption that Richard Hart is like a bad guy. And this news is objectively very scary, right? You're like, okay, the SEC news, the Interpol news, but then this Simon Dixon guy over here, it's like spends a lot of his time on Twitter. Look at all of his tweets about Richard. It's like when somebody can't stop talking about him, you're like, why? Are they really trying to save people? Or are they trying to virtue signal? Or are they trying to just dance on other people's graves or deflect? Because again, a lot of people are hateful and jealous due to their own shortcomings. And you look at this Simon Dixon guy who started a company called Bank to the Future, which I did invest a little bit of money in. And I lost a lot of money in this too. You could see his coin went from 20 cents down to 5/100ths of a penny. So it's down 99.9% or 99.1%, right? So all these crypto people that hate on Richard Hart the most tend to have, failed projects, or maybe they secretly actually like it. Maybe they just like the attention online. But to me, it feels like misplaced anger. And I know that crypto is infuriating. Okay, there's scams everywhere. The people that we should be angry at, however, are the actual people that scammed and ran away with everybody's money. For example, Alex Mashinsky. This is the founder of Celsius Token. He just pled guilty. He's probably going to prison. He could do a maximum of 30 years in prison and admitted to two counts of fraud, stealing multiple millions of dollars from people. And this guy, ironically, there's a lot of clips of this guy online saying a lot of bad stuff about Richard Hart. Okay, another guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, we've all seen this face before, even in the mainstream news. He made it to the mainstream news because his scam was so big. He launched a crypto exchange centralized exchange that took people's money away from them, out of their self-custody, just like Celsius, by the way. These guys took people's crypto away from their own custody. They took their private keys, or they took their money away from them. And they did shady stuff with it, or bad investing, and they lost it all. And FTX blew up and lost more money than Bernie Madoff. So this is the biggest scam of basically the century in terms of money alone. And now he's facing up to 25 years, but he might get up early because he's well connected. We'll see. But also, Do Kwon. These are the people that I think deserve a little scrutiny and a little anger because, Do Kwon is a complicated one because he just made bad code. Okay, what he just did was didn't intentionally scam anybody, but he made something so bad that it literally went to zero and collapsed and did what's called a death spiral. And so he's being extradited to the USA for launching the Terra Luna stablecoin that was supposed to peg to $1, but actually went to zero. So it's things drop 99% sometimes in crypto, but to go to zero, that's pretty bad, guys. These are the people that are losing everybody's money. And maybe the SEC, maybe the DOJ, maybe they're going to get some of this money back to investors, but a lot of time they don't. And that's why when it comes to being angry at crypto, yeah, you can be angry at the founders that lost everyone's money, but shouldn't we also be angry at the system that claims to be helping us? The establishment, the status quo, like people, institutions like the SEC, institutions like Interpol that are supposed to represent justice, that really oftentimes just want to get a settlement out of these people to add to their war chest. And not very often does money actually get distributed back to the people that lost it. So, while the SEC probably does catch the bad guys, maybe who knows, 60, 70% of the time, even when they do catch the bad guys, and there's a lot of false, bogus cases out there, but when they are doing their job, how much of the scammers' money do they actually get and give back to the people, right? A lot of times they just collect what's called a settlement in court to add to their war chest to go sue more people, to go climb the corporate ladder and just keep the machine going. And so for crypto in general, the ethos of crypto was to get rid of middlemen and to criticize authority figures and to get rid of the corrupt Federal Reserve money printers that are debasing your money by inflation. Every single day, your grocery bill costs 4 times what it costed a couple years ago. This is the thing that should make you angry. This is what gets me heated up. And so people get mad at the guy in the Gucci suit, but they don't spend enough time reflecting on the reason crypto was invented and all of a sudden rooting for the middlemen like BlackRock. It's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. It's like rooting for your slave masters or your captors. And when is traditional finance, when has the traditional financial system ever had your best interest at heart? Unless you go and work in the belly of the beast, they're not in the business of making your life any easier or giving you more purchasing power. Okay? They print money to oblivion to fund wars, people you didn't even elect. And then all of a sudden your grocery bill is 4 times higher. So it is normal to feel angry, to be angry at people that cause these crypto disasters, or to be angry at regulators that claim to protect us but can't even stop the biggest frauds. SEC was meeting and having backdoor meetings with the SEC. FTX and the SEC were like in cahoots together. So they missed all the biggest ones. And now it seems like they're suing anyone and everyone, even potentially with good intentions. Now hear me out. Does this Richard Hart guy actually have good intentions? But what does the founder himself actually have to say for himself? Let's look at this guy. Shout out to SuperHex Win. Definitely worth a follow on Twitter. Justin Waller, a famous podcaster, interviews Richard, and here's what he has to say.
What do you think makes people most misunderstand you?
I don't think there's anyone else like me in the world. It's so easy to categorize people usually. So it's like, here's the guy that really cares about decentralization, really cares about his fellow man. All my first YouTube videos were just me trying to teach you how to give a better apology, have a better relationship, be happier, gamble less, drink less, don't play poker, don't play grinding video games. Like I'm doing everything I can to make people's lives better because I was already retired in 2003. So I've been retired 20 years. And so I was just trying to make the world a better place. And then I mined Bitcoin at 50 cents. And then I made my own cryptocurrency, then on 10,000x. And then I predicted Bitcoin price 2 cycles, 2017, 2021, all the top on the day. And then I predicted Celsius was going to fail and that you should remove your money from it years before it happened. And I just keep hitting home run after home run after home run after home run. And eventually people were like, this is weird. They shouldn't be able to do all that stuff. And then he's also social and he can twerk and he can do pull tricks. He can do pull trick and twerk.
So he's a weird guy, right? Like, he brags about some weird stuff, but he's also been right.
No, you can't. I can do it. You can't do it. I'm the world's largest diamond. Do you own it?
Brags about the diamond. Like, that's distasteful, right? A lot of people see that and they just get jealous and hateful. Like, it's like, oh, why are you bragging about having a big diamond? Like, you sound like a douchebag, right? But then they forget all the stuff at the beginning, that he cares about decentralization, or so he says. Right now, it's up to you whether you believe it from the horse's mouth. Right? If you can get a good read on body language, and if you think this guy's lying, that is totally up to you to decide for yourself. But that's why I'm showing you this video, is because I want you guys to decide. I want you guys to decide where to direct your anger. There's a lot of wasted anger, which I believe sometimes are directed on misunderstood people. But look, he's talking about decentralization. He's talking about people like to categorize me, but it's hard to categorize me. The guy's made self-help YouTube videos, retired in 2003. Again, whether or not you believe that, but even if you say, oh, he was just greedy for more money, well, he was buying Bitcoin and mining Bitcoin at 50 cents. So he's rumored to be a Bitcoin billionaire. And I think it's hard for people to understand when someone is a multimillionaire. Let's say, okay, he only has $100 million. At a certain point, people are no longer motivated by money. But that's a hard perspective for people like you and me to grasp sometimes. Again, unless you think he's telling the biggest lie ever told or doing this multi-year scam, right? And again, HEX has been up for 5 years, working flawlessly. So could it be a 5-year-long scam? That's the thing. It's like most scammers, they don't have the patience to do such a long con. So this could be theoretically the longest con in all of crypto history. It would make for one of the most interesting stories ever told. Or it could just be a bored rich guy trying to just be the best founder. Now, yes, he is a little weird guy. He's not a perfect person. You don't have to love everything about him. You don't have to worship him. And sometimes it gets a little weird to me when I see the HEX community going over the top with the worshiping. It kind of is a little creepy. But we all have this gene inside of us, right? It's called a worship gene. You can go Google it. But anyway, that is his side of the story. And I can play you a couple more clips too if you want to hear more, quotes from the horse's mouth. Let's go over a couple more clips. See what you think about this one.
I'm proud to be the founder of the best cryptocurrency to ever be invented. And I'm proud to be a participant in the Hexican community. I'm proud that if you thought 4,000x gains was a lot in 600 days, soon it's going to be past 10,000. And I remember when I made the HEX website and I said, this was designed to do a 10,000x return in 2.5 years. Everyone said it was a scam. It was impossible. How dare you design something with the intention of becoming valuable? Well, that's what business is. By design, business is the creation of value for shareholders.
So that's another weird thing. It's like, I think a lot of people said he was designing something to go up, so it was a scam. But it's like, everybody wants their token to go up. That should go without saying. I feel like he's one of the few guys just telling you, look, I'm designing this to go up. I can't promise it's going to go up, but a lot of these coins go up a lot, and I want mine to go up.
Every business is trying to create and accrue value, and I'm honest and open about it. And I said, I want to design the highest appreciating asset that's ever existed. And then we did it, and it's working. And I think we'll be past 10,000x very soon. And then will I hear apologies from all those people that said evil things about me?
So, it must be frustrating, right? To see a bunch of people talking about him when he's not there necessarily to defend himself. Okay, last clip, guys. This is a little 30-second clip because we're going to go back to just how he looks like a scammer. Look at this stuff.
Overly expensive stuff barely benefits me, but it's what I need to do to get my...
So look, he's talking about all this expensive stuff and why he owns it.
Barely benefits me, but it's what I need to do to get my message out. I want to save everybody. And just building the best performing asset in the world, the one of 10,000x in 1.7 years, no one cared. I didn't get any news articles at all. No one cared. I raised $27 million for charity. I got one news article. I bought the world's largest diamond. I got 100 news articles, and it was cheaper. I'm like... Okay, well, this is stupid. People want me to be stupid. All right, I'll pretend to be stupid for you. But after I hook you, I will lead you to greatness. That's where I'm at right now.
So, not a conventional way of gaining popularity by dressing like a clown and buying expensive stuff. But then when you hear wait, he donated $27 million to charity. I mean, do scammers, care about giving back to charity? No, they usually just scam and run away forever. But, you heard him say, when he bought the diamond, people wrote so many articles about that. When he donated to charity, hardly anybody talked about him donating $27 million, and the diamond was only $3 million? So it is kind of absurd when you think about it. The way people are wired, we're wired to respect authority. And that's where all this misplaced anger, I think, comes from, is people just see the SEC and they say, oh, it's a cognitive bias that people don't actually realize that we have. And it's one of our strongest cognitive biases is the appeal to authority. Like I said about that worship gene, some people worship Richard Hart. Some people worship the establishment, the SEC, without realizing. Because they say SEC accuses Richard Hart of doing something. And when they hear that 3-letter agency alleges or accuses somebody, they assume guilty until proven innocent. They don't assume innocent until proven guilty. And we're wired this way to pick a side quickly because it's evolutionarily adaptive for us to decide quickly that this guy's a scammer, this guy's a good guy, this guy's a bad guy. We make our judgments quickly because that's what served us in the past. And I'm trying my best to take a middle of the line approach. Richard Hart's not a god. I don't think maybe it was even the best idea to do this outrage marketing. Okay, that probably shot himself in the foot. If he didn't do that, maybe the SEC wouldn't have even gone after him. But at the same time, these people that are worshiping Interpol or the SEC without realizing and rooting for Richard to fail need to realize all of the corruption that goes on. For example, places like Interpol are notorious for falsely accusing people like Snowden, people like Julian Assange, all these so-called good guys, and just throwing all these baseless claims at them because they are the ones bucking the system or exposing information or making open source software that could potentially disrupt, the traditional economic model. So HEX and PulseChain are positioned as alternatives, decentralized alternatives to the money system. But think about who that would upset. It would probably upset the very same centralized entities and regulators that let people down over and over again that don't catch the scammers or that are in cahoots with the scammers themselves. You could look up the Vice documentary or the 60 Minutes about corruption at Interpol. I made a tweet about it. But being angry at Richard Hart, again, is either maybe covering up for some of these bad projects that other crypto scammers have run in the past, or misallocated anger, which should be used towards the three-letter agencies that don't always act in the best interest of the people that they're supposed to support. When something like HEX and PulseChain and PulseX come around and they put power back into the hands of the people, and they have the potential to make people a lot of money, think about who this threatens, and then think about those people that are threatened might actually be the ones trying to psyop the public into picking and choosing who the bad guy really is. Now, like I said, it's hard to always like Richard Hart. A lot of people aren't wired to be attracted to that kind of stuff. That outrage marketing alienates people. It makes you different than the rest of people because you're flaunting your wealth, right? It's literally proof of work if you think about it. But by flaunting your wealth, yes, you're showing people you're successful, but you're also making people jealous and jumping to conclusions and judgments that, oh, you must have stolen that money from somebody else. It couldn't have possibly been because you were a retired multimillionaire before crypto or that you bought Bitcoin at 50 cents and got rich off that. Some people don't want to believe that story. That's fine. So then you think to yourself, well, there's got to be some other coins out there. HEX and PulseChain, they haven't really performed that well. They're still, suppressed after almost 2 years of existence. And HEX has been out for 5 years. And it's gone down a lot since the top of the last bull market. So is HEX just another scam? Is PulseChain just another scam? What are my alternative options out here? There's got to be something worth believing in that's not HEX and PulseChain. Now, of course, there's plenty of coins, thousands of coins out there. But are these coins all audited, immutable, decentralized? Do they put you in control? Because what you'll find, the unfortunate reality of a lot of these alternative coins is that they're not organic and they actually have, you could say, these insider corporate cabals or VC money flowing into them. And here's one report about, meme coins, which are supposed to be organic, right? So you're like, okay, maybe I'm going to go after some of these meme coins because they're a rejection of the system. They're not owned by corporate sellouts. They're not paid off by fake influencers to say nice things about them. But then we look at the dark underbelly of corporate meme coins, and you could see there's dirty games everywhere in crypto, guys. Dirty games are almost everywhere. Look at the coordinated bot attacks that go on. This is like a Popcat versus Brett. It's like a meme coin war. Popcat versus Brett or whatever. And so you can see that when a lot of these bot attacks come out, you have all these anonymous NFT profile pictures. Are these even real people? Look, Tiana Yele, and then all these numbers after the key giveaway with bots, guys, is you've got all these numbers after the @ sign. So I think it's funny when all of these people start to say the same types of things about, trying to FUD a certain token, like, oh, Popcat, watch out for that meme coin. And these coordinated bot attacks, again, they're like anonymous and probably not real people. And you can see they're all saying kind of the same tweets at the same time. It's all on May 5th. It's all roughly the same script. And you're like, okay, well, this is going on even in the meme coin world. How can I trust anything at all? There's misinformation out there. There's threats of violence. A lot of times people do resort to this. I know it's very low, but there's a very, very dark side of crypto that people get jealous and they have a scarcity mindset and they think that if you say something bad about my coin, that somehow is worth, physical violence. This is a terrible dark side of crypto that I don't even like to address, but we have to look at it. And this is happening in meme coin cabals. A lot of times this happens on Solana, right? They're manufacturing demand, and the insider group is really only like 5 people that are dumping on you the whole time. And they're pump and dumps that last maybe 2 to 3 weeks tops. So maybe that's the game you want to play. Maybe that's not. Maybe you want to go play by some of these classic regulated cryptocurrencies that are backed by big names and venture capital, because that's the appeal to authority. Again, let's go back to the appeal to authority. Here's a common one called Celestia that's very VC backed. It's got a lot of nice articles written about it in the mainstream media because it's all paid for, because they raise millions of dollars from venture capital companies and hedge funds and family offices. But then you look at the allocation of tokens like this and you see that only 7% of the tokens are allocated to actual people, users, consumers, retail like me and you. Look, Series A and Series B gets 20%, seed round gets 16%, dev team gets almost 20%, R&D gets 26%, 12% goes to marketing. Everything besides the 7.4% is essentially going to insiders who are just permanently dumping on you that oftentimes have these unlocked schedules. And we see, look at the unlocked supply versus the locked supply. 44% of the tokens are locked up by the insiders, guys. Remember, Series A, B, seed, devs, core contributors. When these guys unlock their supply, they dump it on retail. They dump it on that tiny little 7% of people that were actually given tokens on the open market. So these guys printed themselves a bunch of tokens for nothing, right? For free. They raised a bunch of money. They let their insider buddies get in on the deal, and they perma-dump on retail forever. This is the playbook for the non-meme coin sector. So you've got the meme coin sector, which can be a little dirty. You've got the big insider VC crypto projects, which are also very unfair. It's basically no different than IPOs in the stock market. By the time retail is getting an IPO, you're far too late. You weren't the seed round. You weren't the Series A or the Series B. So let's be honest. When you look at some of the biggest cryptos out there, the pattern is that they're run by insiders that are more focused on profits than making something truly decentralized. Or they're more focused on short-term pump and dump meme coin degeneracy than making something long-term and decentralized. So insider scams are going to exist in meme coins, are going to exist in VC coins. In HEX and PulseChain, no single party owns the code. And now the other controversy is that the founder probably owns about 80-90% of the coins. But would you rather have one guy owning all the coins that doesn't need any money, that has never sold a single coin in 5 years? You see, this is a little fishy about HEX and PulseChain, because when people realize that the founder of HEX and PulseChain basically left 80 or 90% of the coins to himself, but they just sit there dormant and have never been sold for years and years, you're like, okay, well, if you actually believe that this guy doesn't need the money and that he's doing this for the glory, then I'd rather have the coins owned by one single guy than all of these Series A, B, seed round, or insider meme coin cabal guys that are only looking for an exit. That's all they're looking for. So I'd rather have the majority of the supply locked by a guy that doesn't need money than all these piranhas out here that just can't wait for an exit. Now, that might be a tough sell to somebody. I get it. There's a lot of just, that guy owns more coins than me. And another thing people conflate as well is that because there's economic centralization, that's the same thing as technical centralization. Technical centralization, I believe, matters a lot more, because the question you should be asking is not, does this guy have more coins than me? It's, can anybody turn this thing off? Can anybody modify the rules of the game or print themselves infinite tokens or sneak in the back door and screw everybody over? Now, in stuff like HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX, the code has been audited, and I'll show the code at the end of this. You can look at the code yourself. It's all openly available, open source. It's viewable to everybody. But I can see how it's distasteful to say, hey, why does one guy own so much of the supply? Until you realize that meme coins and VC coins are pretty much the entirety of the rest of crypto. And that these guys, sure, they might have a nice LinkedIn profile. They might wear a suit and tie and say all the right things and fit into this, more of the traditional system. But at the end of the day, they're playing a role. They're playing the game, and VCs need exits. They're not as rich as, I believe, this retired Bitcoin billionaire. And maybe you don't believe that. Maybe you think, again, Richard is going to dump all the coins one day. If that's the case, I would say don't buy HEX, don't buy PulseChain or PulseX if you believe that Richard Hart will scam everybody. But again, this would be the longest running 5-year scam in history. And I also believe, well, if he did dump all the tokens to zero, then he would definitely be going to jail or something worse, right? I mean, there's so many eyeballs on this guy that why would anybody nuke their own project? It's like saying, why would Elon Musk dump all of his Tesla stocks? Or why would Jeff Bezos dump all of his Amazon stock in one click? You know, because people don't normally nuke themselves and go totally AWOL. And when people do want to exit, they make it look all nice and complicated with a nice looking pie chart. Like, oh, we're going to do research and development. Sure, you are, but you're also going to constantly dump on people and pay for these, you know, positive news articles and sentiment so that retail gets the short end of the stick. Just like retail gets the short end of the stick in meme coins. And let's go into that, guys, because we've looked at a lot of the other options. And it starts to get a little depressing when you actually realize there's nothing else in crypto that I can hang my hat on. Like, I totally understand when people get to crypto and they look at it and they say, is this really all just one big pump and dump casino? Everybody's scamming everybody. Nobody believes in anything. Nobody believes in decentralized products that are out of the hands of the government. Because you read stuff like Hawk Tua Girl. I mean, what does this girl know about crypto at all? This one pisses me off too. But it's also just depressing, right? It's just depressing that people are so lost. And it's the blind leading the blind. Nobody has a sense of purpose. And they'll trust random girls like this that got famous for making a joke about sucking a dick. And she launches a meme coin. What does she know about crypto? This meme coin went down 99% in like a couple of hours, guys. The Hawk Tua Girl tried to get into crypto. Iggy Azalea tried to get into crypto. All these famous names, right? One of the most offensive ones is this teenage kid. Look at this guy, this little fat kid here. Scammed everybody out of a meme coin and then flipped off the camera. I mean, we can watch the video. Let's see. Where is he? That's him. That's him dumping all the coins right there, right in front of your face, and then flipping everybody off. And it's funny, but it's also depressing. So I understand the fear. Crypto's like a minefield. And if you're lost and you don't have any purpose, you're going to follow kids like this or Hawk Tua Girl, or you're just thinking that, oh, if I could only predict the next meme or pop culture thing that's going to happen, that's the way to do crypto. But what if there was long-term holds out there, right? What if there was a sense of purpose and belonging and a community out there? That's what HEX and PulseChain represent to a lot of people. You have to understand that a small, diehard group of crazy crypto fanatics, crazy crypto freaks that stuck together between the highs and the lows, they're some of the only people in crypto that aren't nihilistic doomers. It's easy to be nihilistic. It's easy to be a doomer. But these Hexican people out there, these PulseChain people, they actually believe that they're building something important. So in an ocean of cynicism, what's attractive to people is to not have to deal with some 13-year-old kid flipping you off and stealing all your money if you were dumb enough to invest in that coin. So HEX and PulseChain were designed to benefit the people that actually believe in the reason crypto was invented, to get rid of middlemen, to subvert the corrupt economic financial system. It's a bigger goal than most people realize at first, and it's scary. And some people don't want to believe in anything, and that is fine. You could stick to the meme coin pop culture following, and I know it's hard to believe, right? You might have gotten rugged. You might have lost money. You might think there's no point in trusting anybody again. Once your trust has been betrayed so many times, you don't want to trust anybody anymore. But here's the thing, Richard Hart saw this coming, and years ago, he was the one trying to actually warn people about centralized middlemen, Celsius, FTX, taking everybody's money. He was warning about the dangers of centralized exchanges. He built HEX and PulseChain to give people a way out. And again, if you believe the guy's already made his fortune, then you understand he doesn't need the money. If you don't believe that, by all means, you do not have to invest in crypto, in HEX, PulseChain, or you don't have to invest in any of this. But here's a video that shows the real problem. Okay, this is the real problem that's going on. This is a great TikTok video about some guy's grocery bill. I want you to watch this whole thing really quick. You might have seen this already. He's talking about how he found an old grocery bill on his Walmart app.
Like Walmart order from 2 years ago for the whole month worth of groceries.
So it was $116 back in the day. $126.
$6. A whole month of groceries just for me, basically. But I did notice this reorder all button, and I wanted to see how much it would cost now. Now, this order of 45 items for 1 month would have cost $414. That is 4 times more. How the fuck? How? Like,
It's bad. Like, I mean, it's sad. I mean, I have to laugh, but it's sad. Yeah, guy's grocery bill, $126. 3 years ago, now it's $400. It went up 300%, 4x. And if you look at the inflation, guys, the average person is working harder than ever before to make less and less money because their purchasing power isn't actually worth that much. So they say inflation is about 3% in the inflation index, but the actual inflation, this is on trueflation.com, that actually uses unbiased real-time data. This is actually a great website. You can bookmark it, TRUflation. 26% is the real rate. And what about the rates in the categories that matter? Gas, food, rent. Those are probably the categories that hit you the hardest. Those aren't weighted as high as they should be. You know, in the index that's telling you, oh, it's only a 3% inflation. It's more like 26%. It really is. So I empathize with the burnout. I empathize with the nihilism. Thinking that the 9 to 5 is never going to be enough to break you out of the rat race these days. It's actually true, unfortunately. But there are still projects out there that are in their early stages that have people that aren't giving up and that have people that have a multi-year vision. And I congratulate anybody that's stayed in crypto because it's a game of attrition. It's a game of don't die. And I congratulate anybody that's willing to stick with it, that might have had some of these losses or got scammed. Like myself back in the early days, I've been in crypto for 10 years, by the way. Got scammed every single way I know how, and was still able to be successful, maybe on my 7th or 8th year into it, just by long-term holding and staying in the game. So it's easy to get jaded, but congrats on making it this far, and knowing in the back of your head that maybe there is something worth believing in. So here's a clip of the founder guy, right? The Interpol notice, SEC scammer guy. Here's a video of him warning people in 2021 about stuff like Celsius and BlockFi.
I'm telling you, if you have money in Celsius, pull it. If you have money in BlockFi, pull it. Or when you never get your money back, don't be surprised. Oh, they got a court order. You just don't get your money. Oh, they lost the keys. You don't get your money. This, like, how many times do you need to see this happen? I'm telling you.
So there's a lot of clips of Richard Hart saying this kind of thing, and people wrote him off for years. And then you look at, well, what was that? What about that BlockFi thing he was talking about? Oh, they filed for bankruptcy, November 2022. He told everybody, don't give your private keys away. Don't give them to a centralized company, a middleman, and don't trust them. Crypto removes the need for trust. It puts you in control of your money. One of the cool ways of actually visualizing this is you look at the HEX staking website, go.hex.com, or the PulseX decentralized exchange, app.pulsex.com, or you look at the PulseChain bridge. Why do all these websites look like this? It's because you're running the code from your own laptop, from your own computer. You can download the file and run it locally, or you can run it on IPFS, which is the decentralized internet. So even these websites, which are, you could say, oh, the website is centralized. Someone can take that down. But they're hosted on IPFS, which is this new thing that not a lot of people know about. That's like the decentralized internet. So even the code itself that can't be taken off the blockchain is also hosted on internet protocols that also can't be taken down. And if you want to ever stake your HEX, you just access the cloud IPFS site and you can go do this kind of thing right over here. I mean, as far as the safety goes of HEX, this is just objectively true. HEX has had 3 different audits. Okay, it's never been hacked in 5 years. It's never actually gone down. It's had 100% uptime. There's a lot of stuff on the hex.com website about how to stay safe, how to write down your private keys and not put them online, how to do crypto the right way. And again, you can even look at the smart contracts on the internet. And if you want to get, so I don't know how to read code. Well, maybe a little, but I don't know how to read code as much as like a developer. If you don't trust the audits or you don't want to trust somebody else, find the smartest guy you know, the smartest developer you know, and go ask them. Seriously, because this would help me and help everybody too. Look at the HEX smart contract here, which is online. This is Etherscan. Google Etherscan HEX. Go to the contract button down here. And this is all the code that we're talking about. All this coin is a little block of code on a blockchain somewhere out in the ether. It doesn't really there's no physical coins, right? So you could send this to the smartest developer you know and ask him, hey, can you please tell me if this is a scam? Because if it is, I would like to know. Please also tell everybody what's the scammy part of this smart contract. Do the same with PulseX. Do the same with PulseChain. Here's an audit, for example, and audits aren't an end-all be-all of safety. right? But you could see here that the original audit for HEX back in the day had no critical vulnerabilities, not even any medium vulnerabilities. But again, audits are one thing. And weirdly enough, I believe Richard Hart was the guy that popularized even the idea of audits. There were no coins being audited before HEX. And now it's kind of like, if you don't have an audit, what are you even doing in crypto? You should always demand that it's been audited. The code has to be audited by a third-party company for safety. Because smarter people than you or I should be having more eyeballs on this code when there's smart contracts with millions of people's dollars on the line. If you mess up in blockchain, it's permanent, guys. Remember. So it's important that you get crypto right. So you could see what HEX means to a lot of people is actually more than just an investment. I mean, here's an example of a HEX conference that a bunch of people went to back in the day in Las Vegas. Everybody with their supercars having a good time celebrating the bull market back in the day. Here's an online conference with tons of people around the world. And these are just examples about how people are connecting on social media, connecting in real life all over the USA and the world, especially like in Europe and other countries as well. The tribe behind it is growing. The social media engagement, when you go online, if you say something bad about HEX online, if you poke that hornet's nest, you're going to get maybe the most engagement you've ever got. And if it was something mean that you've said, you're probably going to get a lot of, mean hisses in the comments as well. So what Richard Hart's done is he's tried to create a product that would not only benefit a small group of insiders, but that would benefit a whole community. And the community itself is the asset that's hard to reproduce. The scarce asset is the cult-like community. They're not an actual cult, obviously, but people joke about it because it is the most vibrant community that I've seen in crypto since the early Bitcoin days. And it gives people the chance to be part of something bigger. The people in the community actually believe that they are part of history, rewriting the financial system. So again, you don't have to buy HEX or PulseChain at all. But if you want to, the opportunities, the best investments don't come when things are already pumping. They come when fear is blinding everybody else. You've seen what happens to centralized systems like FTX. You've seen what happens to meme coin cabals and VC-funded insider groups. And when you join HEX and PulseChain, you're actually joining a community of builders, a community of educators, and all these random people online that might have a similar common ideal to you, a similar vision to you as well. So now's the time that you actually have to act. You actually have to decide. You can call it a scam all you want. That is totally fine. You can walk away. You can go after, there's probably other opportunities that will do well in crypto. But if you decide that this is something that you want to get in, remember the best opportunities come when they feel unconventional, when they don't necessarily feel good. There's a lot of uncertainty behind them. But those who understand them early, it's called asymmetric information. Those that have information on their side are usually the ones that benefit the most. So HEX and PulseChain are the antidote to the corrupt financial system that's decaying around us. And if you decide to join the tribe, you're probably going to want to act sooner rather than later and position yourself for the bull market ahead. If you found this valuable, share it with somebody else, leave a comment, like and subscribe, and follow me on X, YouTube, TikTok, anywhere for more content like this.